The baby kicked first, hard enough that Evangeline Thorne had to stop walking halfway up the marble steps of the Seattle Council Hall. Her hand went instinctively to her belly, fingers pressing through the deep burgundy fabric of her dress as she inhaled, slowly grounding herself against the wave of movement inside her. 5 months. She was 5 months along now, and her child seemed to know exactly when moments mattered, when hesitation could mean retreat. When her mother needed a reminder of why she'd driven 3 hours from Spokane in the rain, why she'd walked away from the safety of anonymity, why she was about to step back into a world that had tried to destroy her. The council hall loomed above her, all stone and glass and old money. Flags hung motionless in the still afternoon air. Rain had stopped an hour ago, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming under gray Pacific Northwest skies. Eva could smell it. Cedar and salt water, and something else. Something that made her wolf stir restlessly beneath her skin. She'd been gone 6 months. It felt like 6 years. Through the tall windows she could see them. The council chamber was full. Alphas in formal blacks and grays. Omegas in pale silks positioned along the outer rings like ornaments. And at the center, standing before the high dais where the 12 council elders sat in judgment, was Coltrane Blackwood. Eva's breath caught despite herself. He looked exactly the same. Dark suit tailored to perfection. Hair pulled back, severe and controlled. Shoulders squared with the weight of authority he'd been born into. The Alpha King of the Pacific Northwest Territories. The most powerful wolf in 3 states. The man who'd chosen duty over her. The man whose child currently resided beneath her heart. She watched as Coltrane extended his hand toward a woman in white, Isadora Sterling, daughter of the Vancouver Alpha, 24 years old. Perfect bloodline, perfect breeding, perfect replacement for the broken Omega who couldn't give him an heir. The bonding ceremony had already begun. Eva could see the ritual circle marked in silver on the marble floor. Could see Elder Theron Ashcroft standing with the ceremonial blade and the ancient words written in a language older than the council itself. Could see the moment when Coltrane was supposed to cut his palm, mix his blood with Isadora's, speak the vows that would bind them until death. Except Eva took another step forward, then another. Her heels clicked against wet stone. The connection inside her chest, the one they'd tried to sever 6 months ago, the one that was supposed to be dead and gone and buried, suddenly pulled tight as a bowstring. It hummed, low and insistent. A vibration that started in her sternum and spread outward like ripples on water. She felt the exact moment Coltrane sensed her. His hand froze mid-reach. His entire body went rigid. Through 50 feet of glass and stone and assembled witnesses, Eva watched his head turn, slowly, inevitably, like a compass finding true north. Their eyes met. Heat flooded through her, familiar and foreign all at once. Recognition. Her wolf surged forward without permission, clawing at her control with desperate urgency. Mate, mine. Here. Eva pressed harder against her belly, using the child's presence to anchor herself. To remember why she was here. To remember that feelings and mate recognition meant nothing when the man in question had chosen politics over love 6 months ago. But Coltrane wasn't moving toward Isadora anymore. He was staring at Eva like she'd risen from the dead, which in a way she had. Omegas didn't survive failed bond severances. The ritual was designed to cut the connection completely, to free both parties to bond again with more suitable partners. Survival rate was 98% because the 2% who died did so instantly, heart-stopping, when the bond snapped. Eva had felt it snap, had felt something vital tear away from inside her chest, that dawn 6 months ago, leaving a hollow space where Coltrane's presence used to live. She'd screamed. She'd bled from her nose and ears. She'd woken 3 days later in a medical facility with Elder Ashcroft standing over her bed telling her the severance was complete, and she had 48 hours to leave Seattle. She'd left. She'd survived. And then 8 weeks later, she'd woken up vomiting into a toilet in her tiny Spokane apartment with the worst morning sickness she'd ever experienced and absolutely no explanation for how it was possible. Now standing in the rain-wet afternoon with her hand on her very pregnant belly, Eva watched realization wash over Coltrane's face in stages. Shock, confusion, recognition, and then something raw and unguarded that made her throat tight. He took a step toward the windows. Elder Ashcroft's voice cut through the chamber, muffled by glass but still audible. Alpha Blackwood, the ceremony requires your attention. Coltrane didn't look away from Eva. Isadora Sterling turned following his gaze. Her expression shifted from serene anticipation to sharp awareness in seconds. She was a smart girl. She'd been raised in council politics. She knew what it meant when an alpha king froze during his own bonding ceremony. Eva lifted her chin slightly. She'd come too far to hesitate now. She pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped inside. The chamber went silent. Not the polite hush of ceremony, the shocked silence of scandal. Eva heard the whispers start immediately, felt every eye in the room turn toward her, felt the weight of judgment and curiosity in something darker. Fear, maybe, or recognition that the rules they'd built their world on were about to be tested. She walked forward, not fast, not slow, steady and deliberate the way she'd learned to walk into courtrooms when she was outmatched and outgunned but refused to show weakness. Her heels clicked against marble. The sound echoed in the vaulted space. Coltrane stood frozen in the center of the ritual circle. Up close, Eva could see the tension in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip on his self-control. His wolf was so close to the surface his eyes had gone dark, pupils blown wide. Eva stopped 10 feet away, close enough that everyone could see, far enough that she wasn't technically interrupting a sacred ceremony, though her presence alone had already done that. Omega Thorn! Elder Ashcroft's voice was cold, controlled, but Eva heard the edge of something else underneath. Alarm, perhaps. This is a closed ceremony. You were not summoned. No, Eva said quietly, her voice carried in the stillness. I was summoned 3 days ago to appear before the council regarding matters of bloodline verification. I'm here. The summons specified tomorrow morning at 9. That was Octavia Ravenswood seated to Ashcroft's left. Tall, elegant, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, and one of the most dangerous alphas on the council. You are early and interrupting sacred rites. Eva met Octavia's gaze steadily. I apologize for the timing, but I thought the council would want to know immediately. The bond severance failed. The whispers exploded into outright murmurs. Shock rippled through the assembled witnesses like wind through grass. Failed severances didn't happen, couldn't happen. The ritual was ancient, perfect, administered by council healers with centuries of knowledge. The only failures in recorded history had been deaths. Instant, merciful, final. That's not possible, Octavia said flatly. Test it, Eva replied. She looked directly at Coltrane as she spoke. Test the bond, right now, in front of everyone. You'll see. Coltrane's chest was rising and falling too fast. Eva could see him fighting for control, fighting his wolf, fighting the pull between them. Alpha Blackwood. Elder Ashcroft's voice held a note of warning. Step away from the Omega. Coltrane didn't move. Coltrane. Isadora Sterling's voice was quiet, dignified. Eva had to give her credit. The girl had grace. You should step away. Finally, Coltrane moved, but not away from Eva, toward her, 3 steps, 4, until he was close enough that Eva could smell him, pine and smoke and something uniquely him that made her wolf keen with want. How, he said, his voice was rough, low enough that only she could hear. How is this possible? I don't know, Eva said honestly, but I feel it. Every day, every night, it never died. You're pregnant. It wasn't a question. Of course he could see it. She wasn't hiding, wasn't trying to. The burgundy dress she'd chosen was fitted through the bodice, deliberately showcasing the swell of her belly. 5 months, Eva confirmed. Something flickered across Coltrane's face. Math, timeline, realization. Mine, he said. Yes. His hand twitched like he wanted to reach for her, to touch her belly, to confirm with his own hands what his eyes and his wolf were screaming at him. Eva stepped back. The movement was small, subtle, but it broke whatever spell had held the chamber frozen. Elder Ashcroft stood. This ceremony is concluded. Omega Sterling, you may return to your family. Alpha Blackwood, you will remain. Omega Thorn, you will come forward. The council chamber cleared with surprising speed. Alphas filed out through side doors. Omegas followed heads down, avoiding eye contact. Isadora Sterling paused at the main entrance, looked back once at Coltrane, then left without a word. Within 5 minutes, only the council remained. 12 alphas seated in a semicircle on the raised dais. Coltrane standing in the center of the disrupted ritual circle, and Eva alone facing them all. The weight of their combined attention was crushing. These were the most powerful wolves in the Pacific Northwest. Men and women who'd ruled their territories for decades, who'd built empires and crushed rivals and maintained order through a combination of tradition, force, and the absolute certainty that their laws were unbreakable. Eva had just walked in and broken one of their most sacred laws simply by existing. Explain, Elder Ashcroft said. Eva took a breath. 6 months ago, you performed a bond severance ritual. You declared me infertile, incompatible with the Blackwood bloodline. You gave Alpha Blackwood a choice between duty and a mate who couldn't give him an heir. He chose duty. I accepted the severance. I left Seattle. She paused. Let the words settle. 8 weeks after the ritual, I discovered I was pregnant. I didn't contact anyone. I didn't know how it was possible. The council's doctors had run every test. 3 years of trying, 3 years of failure. And then suddenly, 8 weeks after severance, I'm carrying a child. You expect us to believe, Octavia Ravenswood said slowly, that you became pregnant after the bond was severed, that you carried a child for 5 months without the bond to sustain you, that the Alpha King's heir is growing in your womb despite every test we ran declaring you incompatible. I don't expect you to believe anything, Eva said calmly. I expect you to test, blood test, bond test, whatever verification you require. I came here because your summons demanded it, but I also came because my child deserves their birthright, whether you believe me or not. The child could be anyone's, another council member said. Eva didn't recognize him. Older, graying, cold eyes. You left Seattle 6 months ago. You could have bonded with anyone. The insult was deliberate. Omegas didn't bond casually. Couldn't. Once formed, a bond was permanent until severed or one party died. For Eva to have bonded with someone else, to have conceived with someone else, would mean she was either lying about the failed severance or she'd somehow managed to form a second bond while the first still existed. Both were impossible by every law they knew. Eva didn't rise to the bait. Test the child's bloodline. Test my bond status. I have nothing to hide. You have everything to hide, Octavia said coldly. If you're telling the truth, it means our ritual failed. It means our healers were incompetent. It means the foundations of our laws are flawed. You understand what you're claiming. I understand, Eva said quietly, that I'm telling the truth. What you do with that truth is your decision. Elder Ashcroft exchanged glances with several other council members. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, he nodded. Dr. Lysander Flint, he called. A side door opened. The council physician entered, tall, thin, precise movements, wire-rimmed glasses. Eva recognized him immediately. He'd been the one to administer her infertility test 3 years ago, the one who'd delivered the diagnosis that had started everything. Elder Ashcroft, Flint said, bowing slightly. Perform a bond verification test on Omega Thorn and Alpha Blackwood. Immediately. Flint's expression didn't change, but Eva caught the slightest hesitation in his step as he approached. Something flickered in his eyes, concern maybe, or recognition that his own work was about to be examined. He produced a small silver device from his medical bag, ancient technology that predated modern medicine. It worked on principles Eva didn't fully understand. Something about reading the energy signature of a bond, measuring its strength, confirming its existence. Alpha Blackwood, Flint said, your hand. Coltrane extended his right hand without hesitation. Flint pressed the device against his palm. It hummed, glowed faintly blue. And Omega Thorn. Eva stepped forward, offered her hand. The device was cool against her skin. The hum intensified. Then the blue glow shifted, brightened, turned gold. Flint went very still. Well, Octavia demanded. Flint cleared his throat. The bond exists, active, approximately 70% strength. The chamber erupted. 70% was strong. Normal bonded pairs registered between 75 and 90%. A failed severance should register 0. An incomplete severance that left the Omega alive should register maybe 5 or 10%. Barely enough to survive. 70% meant the bond had never truly broken. That can't be right, Octavia said. But her voice had lost its certainty. Test it again, someone demanded. Flint did, 3 times. Each reading came back the same. 70%, strong, stable, undeniable. Coltrane was staring at Eva like he'd never seen her before. Like she was some miracle he couldn't quite believe. His wolf was so close to the surface. Eva could feel it pressing against the connection between them. She held herself very still, kept her own wolf locked down tight. This wasn't reunion. This was verification. She'd come here for her child, not for feelings, not for second chance, not for the mate who'd chosen tradition over her when it mattered most. The bloodline test, Elder Ashcroft said heavily. Dr. Flint, proceed. This test was simpler. A finger prick, a drop of Eva's blood, a drop of Coltrane's, mixed in a small vial with some reagent Eva didn't recognize. The liquid turned silver, then gold, then a deep, brilliant red that seemed to glow from within. Blackwood bloodline, Flint confirmed. Direct paternal match. The child is Alpha Blackwood's heir. The silence this time was different, heavier, weighted with implications Eva knew the council was already calculating. An heir, a legitimate heir. Growing in the womb of an Omega who should have been severed and gone but somehow remained bonded at 70% strength. A child conceived after a failed ritual that should have been impossible. Everything they thought they knew about their own laws was crumbling. This changes nothing, Octavia said suddenly. Her voice was sharp, controlled, but Eva heard the edge of desperation underneath. The severance was performed correctly. If it failed, that's a medical anomaly, not a reversal of the council's decision. Omega Thorne was declared infertile. She was severed from the Blackwood line. The fact that she managed to conceive afterward doesn't change the ruling. It changes everything, Coltrane said. He'd been silent through the entire testing, standing in the center of the ritual circle like a statue. But now he spoke and his voice carried the full weight of his authority. You told me she was infertile. You told me the bloodline was incompatible. You gave me a choice between Dudywes and my mate based on information that was clearly false. I made my decision based on a lie. You made your decision based on 3 years of failed conception, Octavia countered. 3 years of tests. 3 years of 3 years of tests administered by whom? Eva interrupted quietly. She looked directly at Dr. Flint. Who ran my fertility tests, Doctor? Flint shifted uncomfortably. I did, under council supervision. And who determined the bloodline incompatibility? The tests were conclusive. Who determined it? Eva pressed. Flint's jaw tightened. I did. Eva let the admission hang in the air. Then she turned back to the council. I'd like to request my full medical records. Every test, every result, every consultation over the past 3 years. I'd like them reviewed by an independent physician, not affiliated with this council, not under any obligation to protect reputations or maintain political stability. You're accusing council physicians of malpractice, Octavia said dangerously. I'm requesting verification, Eva corrected. The same thing you're demanding of me. If your tests were accurate, they'll hold up to independent review. If they weren't, she paused, then I think we all deserve to know why. Elder Ashcroft studied her for a long moment. His expression was unreadable. Finally, he nodded. The request is reasonable. Dr. Flint compile Omega Thorne's complete medical history. We'll arrange for an independent review. He turned to Eva. You'll remain in Seattle until the review is complete. We've arranged quarters for you at the Fairmont Olympic. You're not to leave the city or contact media regarding any of this. Understood. It wasn't really a question, but Eva nodded anyway. And Alpha Blackwood, Ashcroft continued, you're to maintain appropriate distance from Omega Thorne until the council has made a final determination regarding her status in the child's legitimacy. No, Coltrane said flatly. Every eye turned to him. No. Octavia's voice was ice. She's carrying my child. The bond between us exists whether you acknowledge it or not. I won't ignore either of those facts because it's politically inconvenient. You'll do as the council commands, Octavia said, or you'll find yourself relieved of your position as Alpha King. There are protocols for rulers who can't maintain basic discipline. The threat hung heavy in the air. Coltrane's wolf surged. Eva could see it, feel it through the pond in raw power pressing against his control. For a moment, she thought he might shift right there in the council chamber. Might let his wolf out to deal with the challenge to his authority. But he held it, barely. The council, he said, carefully, each word measured and deliberate, can make whatever determinations it wants about protocols and politics and proper procedure. But that's my child, and that's my mate, and I will not be ordered to abandon either of them again. He turned and walked out. The doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. Eva stood alone before the council. 12 ancient alphas staring at her with expressions ranging from concern to calculation to barely concealed hostility. Elder Ashcroft sighed. You've created quite a situation, Omega Thorne. I didn't create anything, Eva said quietly. I just survived what you tried to kill. The words landed like stones in still water. Ashcroft's expression flickered. Something that might have been respect, or might have been concern that Eva was far more dangerous than they'd anticipated. You're dismissed, he said finally. Return to your hotel. We'll contact you when the medical review is complete. Eva bowed slightly, the minimum respect required, and turned to leave. She made it 3 steps before Octavia's voice stopped her. Omega Thorne, a word of advice. Eva paused but didn't turn around. Whatever you think you've accomplished by coming here, whatever fairy tale you've told yourself about true love and second chances. Let me be clear. The council runs this territory. Not bonds, not feelings, not pregnant omegas with impossible stories. We decide who leads. We decide who breeds. We decide what's best for our people. And we will not allow one woman's biology to undermine centuries of carefully maintained order. Now Eva did turn, looked directly at Octavia Ravenswood. Then you should have made sure I stayed dead. She walked out. The rain had started again by the time Eva reached the hotel. The Fairmont Olympic sat in the heart of downtown Seattle, all old-world elegance and quiet luxury. The kind of place designed for people with money older than the city itself. Eva's room was on the 10th floor. Corner suite, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, fireplace, sitting area, bedroom separated by French doors, bathroom bigger than her entire Spokane apartment. She stood at the window for a long time, one hand resting on her belly, watching rain streak down the glass. Movement rippled beneath her ribs, sharp, insistent. The child was restless, sensing their mother's tension. I know, Eva murmured. I know, we're in enemy territory, but we're going to be okay. She could sense Coltrane nearby, somewhere in the city. The pull was stronger now that they'd been in proximity. 70% strength meant the connection was deep enough to feel emotions. Location, basic status. She could feel his anger, his frustration. The way his wolf was clawing at his control. Could he feel hers? Her fear masked by determination, her exhaustion hidden behind professional composure. The way her own wolf wanted nothing more than to find him, curl up against him, let him protect them, the way mates were meant to protect each other. Eva closed her eyes, breathed. This wasn't about what she wanted. This was about survival, about protecting her child, about making sure that when she left Seattle this time, it was with legal recognition and protected status in everything her baby would need to claim their birthright. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Hello, Miss Thorne, a woman's voice, professional, careful. My name is Serafina Cole. I'm a former council healer. I need to speak with you, privately, about your medical tests. Eva's pulse quickened. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? There's a coffee shop called the Athenian Inn. 8 a.m., come alone. Why should I trust you? A pause. Because I'm the one who performed your bond severance. And I'm the one who knows it was sabotaged. The line went dead. Eva stood, frozen, phone still pressed to her ear, heart pounding. Sabotaged. The word echoed in her mind. Sabotaged meant deliberate. Sabotage meant conspiracy. Sabotaged meant someone had wanted the severance to fail, or wanted her to suffer, or wanted something else entirely that Eva couldn't yet see. Movement beneath her ribs again, stronger this time. I know, Eva whispered. I know. Things just got complicated. She turned from the window and started making plans. If the severance had been sabotaged, that meant someone on the council had deliberately tried to hurt her, to hurt Coltrane, to manipulate the bloodline politics in ways Eva was only beginning to understand. And if someone had done it to her, they'd likely done it to others, which meant somewhere out there were other Omegas who'd been told they were incompatible, other mates who'd been severed, other families destroyed by lies masked as medical truth. Eva pulled out her laptop, started searching. Council records were mostly closed, but there were enough public documents to build a timeline if you knew where to look. Bonding ceremonies, severances, births, deaths. She worked through the night building spreadsheets and cross-referencing dates, looking for patterns, and she found them. 4 other Omegas over the past 5 years, all declared infertile, all severed from high-ranking alphas, all disappeared from public record within months of the severance. No births, no deaths, no relocations, just gone. Eva's blood ran cold. 4 Omegas, 4 failed bloodlines, 4 potential heirs who were never born, and in each case, territory and power had been redistributed, consolidated, moved into fewer hands. She pulled up the current council roster, looked at who'd gained power over the past 5 years. One name appeared again and again, Octavia Ravenswood. Eva sat back in her chair, mind racing. If Octavia was eliminating competition for her own bloodline, if she was sabotaging bonds and falsifying fertility tests to prevent heirs from being born, then Eva wasn't just fighting for her own recognition. She was fighting against a systematic conspiracy that had destroyed multiple families. And she was the first one who'd survived long enough to fight back. Coltrane was close, getting closer. Eva could feel it through the connection that pulsed between them. She checked the time. 3 a.m. A knock sounded at her door. She knew who it was before she opened it. Coltrane stood in the hallway, still in his formal clothes from the ceremony, hair disheveled like he'd been running his hands through it, eyes wild, wolf barely contained. "I can't stay away," he said roughly. "I've been trying for 6 hours. I can't do it." Eva should send him away, should maintain the professional distance the council demanded, should protect herself from the mate who'd chosen wrong once and might choose wrong again. Instead, she stepped aside, let him in, closed the door on the watching world outside, and prepared for the conversation that would change everything. Coltrane didn't move past the entrance, just stood there in the doorway like a man who'd crossed enemy lines and wasn't sure if he'd be shot for it. His chest rose and fell with controlled breaths, the kind of control that came from decades of alpha training, from learning to leash instincts that could tear a room apart if given freedom. Eva could see the effort it cost him, could feel it through the connection that hummed between them. She closed the door, locked it. The click of the deadbolt sounded too loud in the quiet suite. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "The council's orders don't matter anymore. If they find out, then they find out. I'm not leaving." His voice was rough, raw. "Eva, I spent 6 months thinking you were gone, thinking the bond was dead, thinking I'd made the right choice even though it was killing me. And then you walked into that chamber today, and everything I thought I knew turned out to be a lie." Eva crossed her arms. Defensive posture. She knew it, couldn't help it. "Not everything. You still chose them over me when it mattered." The words hit him like a physical blow. She watched him flinch, watched pain flicker across his face before he locked it down again. "Yes," he said quietly. "I did, and I've regretted it every day since." "Regret doesn't change what happened." "No, it doesn't." Coltrane took a step forward, still cautious, still giving her space. "But maybe understanding does. Can we sit, please?" Eva hesitated, then nodded toward the sitting area. 2 chairs arranged by the fireplace. Neutral territory, not the bedroom, not intimate. She took one chair. Coltrane took the other. The fire crackled softly between them. Outside, rain continued its steady percussion against the windows. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Eva studied him in the firelight. He looked older than she remembered. Tired. Lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. His hands rested on his knees and she could see the tension in them, the white-knuckle grip on his own control. "Tell me," she said finally. "Tell me what happened after I left." Coltrane exhaled slowly. "The council gave me 3 weeks to choose a new mate. They had a list, pre-approved bloodlines, compatible omegas who'd already agreed to be considered. Isadora Sterling was at the top. Because she's perfect," Eva said. "Not bitter, just fact. Because her bloodline is powerful and her family controls the Vancouver shipping routes, and a bonding would consolidate territory." Coltrane's voice was flat, clinical, like he was reciting a business proposal, which Eva supposed he was. "I met with her 4 times. Formal courtship, supervised visits. She's intelligent, kind, everything an Alpha King's mate should be. And every time I tried to imagine bonding with her, my wolf tried to claw out of my skin." He looked at Eva, really looked at her. "The bond severance was supposed to free me, make it possible to move on. But all it did was leave this hollow space, like something vital had been carved out and the wound wouldn't heal." Eva knew the feeling, had lived with it for 6 months, that emptiness where Coltrane's presence used to be, the phantom sensation of something that should have been dead but somehow persisted as an ache just below her consciousness. "I went through with the courtship anyway," Coltrane continued, "because the council demanded it, because the territories needed stability, because I thought eventually I'd stop feeling like I was betraying everything that mattered." He paused. "Today was supposed to be the bonding ceremony, the final step, and then you walked in." "Timing," Eva murmured. "Fate," Coltrane corrected. "Eva, when I saw you, when I felt it flare, I've never been so relieved and so angry at the same time. Relieved because you were alive. Angry because it meant they lied to us. About everything." Eva's hand went to her belly. The baby was quiet now. Listening, maybe. Or just resting. Building strength for whatever battles lay ahead. "The infertility diagnosis," she said. 3 years of tests. 3 years of being told my body was broken, that I was incompatible with your bloodline, that I'd never give you an heir." She met his eyes. "Did you ever doubt it even once?" Coltrane was quiet for a moment. "Then no, I trusted the council's physicians, trusted that they had no reason to lie, Trusted that the tests were accurate because questioning them would mean questioning the entire system I was raised to believe in. And now I don't trust anything. His voice turned hard. 3 years, Eva. 3 years of watching you break a little more each month when the pregnancy test came back negative. 3 years of seeing hope die in your eyes. And all of it was manufactured. Someone wanted us to fail, wanted us childless, wanted us severed. Octavia Ravenswood, Eva said. Coltrane's head snapped up. What? I've been doing research, looking at council records, public documents. Eva stood crossed to where her laptop sat open on the desk. 4 other Omegas over the past 5 years, all high-ranking bloodlines, all declared infertile, all severed from their alpha mates. She pulled up the spreadsheet she'd built, showed him the names, the dates, the patterns. Lydia Thornton, bonded to Alpha Marcus of the Portland Territory, declared infertile after 2 years, severed. Territory went to Octavia's nephew. Catherine Wells, bonded to Alpha James of the Tacoma Pack, infertile after 18 months, severed. Territory absorbed into Ravenswood Holdings. Miranda Cross, Helena Shaw. Eva's voice was steady but cold. Both severed, both territories redistributed. And in every case, Octavia Ravenswood's family gained power. Coltrane stood slowly, walked to the desk, stared at the screen like it showed evidence of mass murder, which in a way it did, political murder. The systematic elimination of competing bloodlines through medical fraud. Where are they? He asked quietly. The Omegas. Where do they go after severance? That's the question I can't answer. Eva pulled up another document. No death certificates, no relocation records, no subsequent bondings. They just disappeared. The word hung in the air, heavy, ominous. You think she killed them? Coltrane said. I think a failed bond severance should be fatal. The ritual is designed to cut the connection completely. 2% mortality rate because those who die do so instantly. But what if the severance wasn't complete? What if it was deliberately sabotaged to leave the bond weak but alive, weak enough that the Omega would slowly deteriorate, fade, die within months but not immediately, not traceable back to the ritual? Eva watched understanding dawn on Coltrane's face, watched horror replace anger. You survived because the bond stayed strong, he said, 70%. But if the others were left at 10%, 5%, just enough to keep them from dying immediately, but not enough to sustain life long term, they'd waste away. Heart failure, organ shut down, and it would look natural. Tragic, but natural. Coltrane turned away from the screen, paced to the window, pressed his forehead against the glass. I sat in council meetings with her, he said. His voice was barely above a whisper. Voted on territory redistribution. Signed off on bloodline transfers. And all of it was built on murder. You didn't know. I should have known. I'm the Alpha King. It's my job to protect the packs, to maintain justice too, he broke off, fist clenched against the window. I failed them. Failed you. Eva wanted to comfort him, wanted to cross the room and put her hand on his shoulder and tell him it wasn't his fault. But she couldn't, not yet. Not when she still didn't know if she could trust him to choose her when it mattered. There's something else, she said instead. I got a call tonight from Serafina Cole. Coltrane turned. The council healer. Former council healer. She left the council 3 years ago, right around the time my infertility diagnosis was confirmed. Eva met his eyes. She said she performed our bond severance, and she said it was sabotaged. She's willing to testify. She wants to meet. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. at the Athenian Inn. Eva paused. She told me to come alone. If this is a trap, then I spring it. Coltrane, I've been handling myself for 6 months. I know you don't need protection. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopped just in front of her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him, could smell pine and smoke, and mate. I know you're strong enough to face this alone. You've proven that. But you don't have to. Not anymore. The connection between them pulled taut. Want, need, recognition. Eva's breath caught. She'd forgotten this. The intensity of standing close to him. The way her wolf responded to his presence like a flower turning toward the sun. I can't, she forced the words out. I can't let myself need you again. Not when you might choose them over me. Over us. Her hand went to her belly. I won't survive it a second time. Coltrane's expression cracked. All that careful alpha control shattered. What lay beneath was raw, desperate. I won't choose them. Not again. Not ever. Eva, I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I broke everything when I agreed to the severance. But I'm asking you to let me try to fix it. To fight with you. Not for you, with you. Pretty words. True words. He slowly, carefully reached for her hand, gave her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers closed around hers, warm, solid, real. The council can exile me, strip my title, take everything I've built. I don't care because none of it matters if you and our child aren't in my life. Eva wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. But she'd learned the hard way that what people wanted and what they'd actually sacrifice for were two different things. Actions, she said quietly, not words. Show me. How? Tomorrow, the meeting with Serafina. If she confirms sabotage, if she gives us proof, we go public. Not to the council, to the media, to every pack in the territory. We expose Octavia, we expose the conspiracy, and we let the consequences fall where they may, even if it means destroying the council's credibility, even if it means political chaos. Coltrane's jaw tightened. Eva could see the war happening behind his eyes. Alpha King trained from birth to protect stability, to maintain order, to put the good of the many above personal concerns, versus the mate who'd been wronged, the child who deserved justice. She waited. Didn't push. Just let him choose. Finally, he nodded. Okay, we go public. All of it. Relief flooded through Eva so intensely she had to sit down. Coltrane followed, kneeling in front of her chair so they were eye level. I mean it, Eva. Whatever it takes. However far we have to burn this down to build something better. I'm with you. She studied his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation, found only determination. The council will come after you, she warned. They won't let you remain Alpha King if you betray them like this. Let them try. A dangerous smile crossed his face. I've been Alpha King for 12 years, built alliances, earned loyalty. The council has power because the packs grant it. If the packs see that the council has been murdering their omegas and falsifying bloodlines, that loyalty will shift. He had a point. The council's authority rested on consent, on the belief that they serve the greater good. Proof of systematic corruption would shatter that foundation. It's going to get ugly. Good, I'm counting on it. People will turn on us. Let them try. And we might lose everything. Coltrane reached up, cupped her face in his hands. His touch was gentle, reverent. I already lost everything once, he said quietly. When I lost you, everything else is just details. The connection between them sang, gold and bright and undeniable. Eva closed her eyes, let herself feel it. The bond that had survived attempted murder. The mate recognition that had refused to die despite every law and ritual designed to sever it. When she opened her eyes again, Coltrane was watching her with an expression that made her heart ache. I love you, he said. I never stopped. Even when I thought it was gone. Even when I tried to move on. My wolf knew. Some part of me always knew. You're my mate, my Luna, the only one. Tears burned Eva's eyes. She blinked them back. I love you too. I hated that I did. Hated that even in Spokane, even trying to build a new life, I could still feel you. Like a ghost limb. Like something that should have been gone, but wasn't. It never broke, Coltrane murmured. Because it couldn't. We're true mates, Eva. The kind the old stories talk about. One soul in two bodies. That's not something that can be severed with ritual and paperwork and politics. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to refuse, to pull back. She didn't. Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, like they were learning each other again, then deeper, hungry. 6 months of separation and grief and longing poured into the kiss. Eva felt it all the way to her bones, felt Coltrane's wolf reaching for hers, felt her own wolf respond with desperate recognition. Mate. Home. Finally. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eva rested her forehead against his. We should stop, she whispered. Yes. Neither of them moved. The council can go to hell. Eva laughed. It came out shaky, but it was real. The first genuine laugh she'd had in months. Coltrane smiled, kissed her forehead, her temple, the corner of her mouth. Stay tonight, Eva said. Just stay. I don't want to be alone. I'm not leaving. Coltrane stood, lifted her easily into his arms. Where do you want to be? Couch bed. I'm not assuming anything. I just want to hold you. Bed, Eva decided, but just sleeping. The baby. I know. I'm not going to do anything that might hurt you or the child. I just want you close. He carried her to the bedroom, set her down gently on the edge of the mattress. Eva kicked off her shoes, started to reach for the zipper of her dress. Coltrane caught her hand. Let me, she nodded. He moved behind her. Careful fingers found the zipper, drew it down slowly. The dress pooled at her waist. Coltrane's hand skimmed over her shoulders, pushing the fabric away. His touch was reverent, not sexual, just tender, like he was rediscovering something precious he'd thought lost forever. Eva stood, let the dress fall completely. Stood in just her undergarments, very pregnant, very vulnerable. Coltrane's breath caught. His hands came to rest on her belly, spanning the swell where their child grew. They're strong, he murmured. I can feel them. Even without touching, I can feel their presence. The baby kicked against Coltrane's palm. He went very still. Was that your child saying hello? Eva felt his chest hitch, felt wetness against her shoulder. Realized Coltrane was crying. Silent tears, the kind men tried to hide even when they were breaking. I'm sorry, he whispered. Eva, I'm so sorry. I should have been there. Should have been with you when you found out. Should have been at every appointment, every milestone. I should have. You're here now, Eva interrupted gently. That's what matters. I missed 5 months. Then don't miss any more. She turned in his arms, kissed him softly, let him feel her forgiveness, even if she couldn't quite say the words yet. Eva turned in his arms, looked up at him. Take off the suit. You can't sleep in that. Coltrane stripped efficiently. Down to boxer briefs, Eva tried not to stare at the expanse of muscle and skin, at the body she knew intimately but hadn't touched in 6 months. He noticed anyway, smiled slightly. See something you like, Luna. Don't call me that yet. I'm not officially reinstated. You never stopped being Luna. The council can't change what's true. He pulled back the covers. They climbed into bed together. Coltrane positioned himself carefully on his side, arms open. Eva tucked herself against him. Back to his chest, his arm came around her hand, resting on her belly. Perfect fit, like they'd been designed for exactly this configuration. They lay together in the darkness. Rain drummed against the windows. The city glowed beyond the glass. And for the first time in 6 months, Eva felt safe. Not because Coltrane would protect her. She could protect herself. But because she wasn't alone anymore. Eva drifted towards sleep with Coltrane's hand on her belly and his heartbeat steady against her back. Tomorrow they'd meet Serafina. Tomorrow they'd get proof. Tomorrow they'd start the war that would either restore justice or burn the council to the ground. But tonight they had this. The quiet, the peace, the simple truth of two mates reunited. It was enough. Morning came too soon. Eva woke to gray light filtering through the curtains and Coltrane's arms still wrapped around her. He was awake. She could tell by his breathing. But he hadn't moved, like he was afraid if he did, she'd disappear. I'm real, she murmured. Still here. I know, He tightened his hold slightly. I keep waiting to wake up, to find out this was a dream and you're still gone. Not gone, not going anywhere. She turned to face him. Morning Coltrane was different from Alpha King Coltrane. Hair mussed, eyes soft, guard down. This was the man she'd fallen in love with, before councils and politics and duty had carved pieces out of both of them. What time is it? She asked. Coltrane glanced at the clock on the nightstand. 6:30, we have time. Eva sat up carefully. 5 months pregnant meant everything took more effort, more planning, more awareness of her changing center of gravity. Coltrane was there immediately, hand at her back, steadying her. I'm fine, she said. I know, let me help anyway. She let him, because despite her independence, despite her determination to prove she didn't need him, the truth was having support felt good. Having someone who cared enough to notice when she needed an extra hand felt better than she wanted to admit. They moved through the morning routine with surprising ease. Coltrane ordered room service. Eva showered and dressed in dark jeans and a soft gray sweater that accommodated her belly. Simple, professional, ready for whatever Serafina might reveal. Over breakfast eggs and toast for her black coffee and fruit for him, they planned. I want to record the conversation, Eva said. If Serafina admits to sabotage, we need proof, not just our word against hers. Agreed. But we need to be careful. If she's being watched, if the council suspects she might talk, then they'll try to stop her. Eva met his eyes, which is why I'm going alone like she asked. Eva, you following me defeats the purpose of coming alone. If Serafina sees you, she might not talk at all. Coltrane's jaw tightened. His wolf clearly hated the idea, but he nodded. Fine, but I'll be close. Not in the coffee shop, but close enough that if anything happens, I can be there in seconds. Mom, fair enough. They finished breakfast in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that came from years of knowing each other, of not needing words to communicate. At 7:45, Eva stood, gathered her bag, checked that her phone was charged and recording app ready. Coltrane walked her to the door, caught her hand before she could leave. Be careful, he said, always am. I mean it, Eva. If this feels wrong, if anything seems off, you leave, promise me. She squeezed his hand. I promise, 2 hours. If I'm not back by 10, you can send the cavalry. I'll give you until 9:30. Eva smiled despite herself. Compromise, 9:45. Deal. He kissed her, quick and hard and full of all the words they hadn't said yet. Then he let her go. Eva rode the elevator down alone, walked through the lobby, pushed through the revolving doors into a Seattle morning that smelled like rain and coffee and salt water. The Athenian Inn was a 10-minute walk. Old establishment, Pike Place market area, the kind of place locals went for breakfast and tourists stumbled into by accident. Eva arrived at 7:55, scanned the interior through the windows. Small, cozy, maybe 20 tables. Half full even this early. She didn't see anyone who looked like a former council healer. Eva pushed inside, found an empty booth near the back, ordered coffee decaf because pregnancy, and waited. 8 o'clock came and went, 8:15. Still no Serafina. Eva was starting to wonder if this had been a setup when the door chimed. A woman entered, mid-40s, auburn hair going silver at the temples, careful eyes. She scanned the room once locked onto Eva and headed straight for the booth. Omega Thorn, she said quietly. Thank you for coming. Serafina Cole. Call me Sarah. She slid into the opposite side of the booth, kept her coat on, bag clutched in her lap. Every line of her body language screamed nervous. Eva started the recording app on her phone, kept it casual, like she was just checking messages. You said the severance was sabotaged, Eva said without preamble. Explain. Sarah glanced around, leaned forward, lowered her voice. I was council healer for 15 years, performed dozens of bond severances. The ritual is precise, ancient. I knew it perfectly. She paused. 6 months ago, I was ordered to perform yours. Alpha Blackwood and Omega Thorn, high-profile case. Council was watching closely. And the night before the ritual, Octavia Ravenswood came to my quarters. Private visit. She brought me revised instructions. Eva's pulse quickened. What kind of revisions? The ritual requires monk's hood root, specific preparation, specific dosage. It severs the bond cleanly. Both parties walk away free. Maybe grieving, but free. Sarah's hands tightened on her bag. Octavia's instructions changed the primary ingredient to valerian. Same color, same texture, but completely different properties. What does valerian do? Suppresses the bond temporarily, makes it dormant, but doesn't sever it. Think of it like putting the connection to sleep instead of killing it. Eva's mind raced. So our bond never actually broke. It was just suppressed. Exactly. For most wolves, the suppression would last maybe 6 months. Then the bond would start to wake up. Slowly, painfully. With both parties separated and unable to complete the connection, the revival would cause deterioration. Heart problems, neurological damage. Eventually death within a year. The coffee shop faded. Eva heard only Sarah's voice, detailing murder masked as medicine. Why would she do that? Eva asked, though she already knew. Territory consolidation. Octavia has been systematically eliminating rival bloodlines for years. She identifies high-ranking alphas with strong genetics, gets them to bond with omegas who come from her approved list. Then when the omega fails to produce an heir, she arranges severance. The alpha is left vulnerable, grief-stricken, easy to manipulate into bonding with someone from Octavia's family line, or into making decisions that benefit Ravenswood interest. And the omegas? Sarah's expression turned haunted. They die, usually within a year, but slowly enough that it doesn't look connected to the severance. Heart failure, stroke, organ shutdown, all explainable, all tragic, all murder. Eva felt sick. How many? That I know of 5, including you, but I suspect there are more. Cases from before I became healer, cases in other territories where Ravenswood influence reaches. Why are you telling me this now? Why not 3 years ago when you first saw something was wrong? Sarah looked down at her hands. Because I was afraid. Because Octavia controls half the council. Because healers who ask too many questions tend to have accidents. She looked up, met Eva's eyes. But you survived. You're the first one who made it past 6 months with the bond still intact. And you're pregnant, which means you're walking proof that the infertility diagnoses were false. If you're willing to fight, I'm willing to testify. Eva's phone was still recording, getting every word, every admission. I need documentation, Eva said. The original ritual instructions versus what you were told to use. Financial records showing payments from Ravenswood to physicians, names of the other Omegas. Anything that proves this wasn't just medical error, but deliberate conspiracy. Sarah reached into her bag, pulled out a thick manila envelope, slid it across the table. Everything I have. Ritual logs, altered instructions in Octavia's handwriting, payment ledgers, and a list of the other 4 Omegas with their last known locations. Eva took the envelope, felt the weight of it. Evidence, proof, justice. This will destroy the council, Sarah said quietly. You understand that if this goes public, the entire power structure collapses. Alphas will lose faith. Omegas will demand reform. There will be chaos. Better chaos than murder masked as law. Sarah smiled slightly. Spoken like a true Luna, your bloodline was always known for courage. What will you do? Eva asked. When this breaks, Octavia will know you talked. I'll disappear. I've been planning for this for 3 years. I have resources, safe houses. I'll be gone before the council can react. She stood. But you need to move fast. Once Octavia realizes you have proof, she'll escalate. She's already tried to kill you once. She won't hesitate to try again. Eva stood as well. Thank you. For your conscience, for your courage, for this. Sarah nodded once. Then she was gone. Out the door and into the Seattle morning like she'd never been there at all. Ava sat back down, stared at the envelope. Inside was enough evidence to start a war. She opened it, started reading. And with every page, her determination hardened. Octavia Ravenswood had killed 4 Omegas, had tried to kill Eva, had manipulated bloodlines and territories and destinies for her own gain. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd let Eva survive. And Eva Thorne didn't just survive. She conquered. Eva made it 3 blocks from the coffee shop before she felt the tail. Not obvious, not amateur, but she'd spent 6 months in Spokane learning to watch her back, learning that trust was a luxury and paranoia was survival. The dark sedan 2 cars behind her taxi had been there since she left Pike Place Market. She pulled out her phone, texted Coltrane, being followed. Black sedan, license plate GHJ7834. Don't engage, just track. His response came in seconds. Location heading back to hotel. Meet me there. Eva kept her breathing steady, kept her heart rate controlled. Panic wouldn't help, action would. She paid the taxi driver, stepped out at the Fairmont Olympics main entrance, walked through the lobby like she had nothing to hide, like she wasn't carrying evidence that could topple governments. The elevator ride to the 10th floor felt like it took hours. Coltrane was waiting in her suite, pacing, Wolf close to the surface. He turned when she entered, scanned her head to toe for injury. I'm fine, Eva said before he could ask. The sedan circled the block twice, then parked across the street. They were watching the hotel entrance now. She set the manila envelope on the desk. But we got what we needed. Coltrane crossed to the window, peered down at the street below. Eva saw his jaw tighten. Council enforcers, he said. I recognize the vehicle. They're not trying to hide anymore. Good, let them watch. Eva opened the envelope, started spreading documents across the desk. Because what we have here is enough to bury Octavia Ravenswood and half the council with her. She walked him through it. Every piece of evidence Serafina had provided. The ritual logs showing the substitution of Valerian for monkshood. Octavia's handwritten instructions. Payment ledgers tracking money from Ravenswood accounts to Dr. Lysander Flint and 3 other council physicians. And the list, 4 names, 4 Omegas who'd been declared infertile and severed. Lydia Thornton, Catherine Wells, Miranda Cross, Helena Shaw. Each name had a date of severance, a last known location, and a note about disposition. Lydia Thornton, severed March 2020, last seen Anchorage, Alaska. No contact after 8 months. Catherine Wells, severed August 2020, relocated to Juneau. Deceased April 2021, cause heart failure. Miranda Cross, severed January 2022. Location Fairbanks. Status unknown. Helena Shaw, severed June 2023. Location Sitka. Status critical condition as of last report. Coltrane's hands were shaking by the time he finished reading. Alaska. She sent them all to Alaska. Remote territories, minimal council oversight, easy to disappear if the bond deterioration kills them. Eva's voice was cold, controlled, but inside rage burned white hot. Catherine Wells is already dead. Helena Shaw might be dying right now, and we don't know about Miranda Cross or Lydia Thornton. We find them, Coltrane said immediately. We bring them back. We get them medical treatment. If the bond was suppressed instead of severed, there might be a way to what, reverse it? Eva shook her head. Sarah said the suppression wears off after 6 months. If they're still alive, their bonds are probably active again. But if their alphas have moved on, bonded with others, the connection would be incomplete, painful, potentially fatal. Coltrane was already pulling out his phone. I'm sending pack doctors to Alaska. All 4 locations, with instructions to find these omegas and provide whatever medical care they need. Money is no object. We get them stabilized. We get them home. He made the calls while Eva continued reading through the evidence. Financial transfers, emails between Octavia and Dr. Flint discussing Project Bloodline Optimization. Notes about which alpha territories were priority targets for consolidation. It was all there, documented, damning, undeniable. Eva's phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She answered. Hello. Omega Thorn. The voice was male, cultured, cold. This is Damian Ravenswood. I believe you met with someone this morning who shared information that doesn't belong to you. Eva's blood went cold. She hit the speaker button so Coltrane could hear. I don't know what you're talking about, she said calmly. Please, let's not insult each other's intelligence. Serafina Cole contacted you, met you at the Athenian Inn, gave you documents that are council property, confidential medical records obtained through illegal means. If Serafina broke the law, that's between her and the council. And you, Omega Thorn, because possessing stolen council documents is itself a crime, one that carries severe penalties. Damian's voice remained pleasant, conversational, like he was discussing weather instead of threats. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity. Return the documents, immediately, no questions asked, and we'll consider this a misunderstanding. And if I refuse, then the council will be forced to take action. For your own protection, of course. Pregnant omegas are so vulnerable. Accidents happen. Medical complications arise. It would be tragic if something went wrong with your pregnancy, especially when you're so far from qualified healers. The threat was clear, unmistakable. Coltrane's wolf surged. Eva could see it happening, see his eyes flash, see his hands curl into claws. You just threatened my mate and my child, Coltrane said. His voice was barely recognizable. Pure alpha command, the kind that made lesser wolves submit or die, on a recorded line, with witnesses. Silence from Damian's end. Then carefully, Alpha Blackwood, I wasn't aware you were present. Now you are, and you need to understand something very clearly. If anything, and I mean anything, happens to Eva or our child, I will personally tear out your throat, then your mother's, then every Ravenswood who knew about this conspiracy and stayed silent. Do you understand me? The council can go to hell. I'm done playing politics, done protecting monsters who murder omegas for power. You want the documents, come take them. But know that the second you try, every pack in this territory will learn what your family has done, and there won't be anywhere on this continent you can hide. Coltrane ended the call, threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall. Eva stood very still, processing. The threat had been real, immediate, and now Coltrane had declared open war. We need to move, she said quietly. They know what we have. They'll escalate. Let them. Coltrane turned to her. His eyes were still more wolf than man. I meant what I said. Every word. No one touches you. No one threatens our child. I don't care what it costs. It's going to cost everything. Your position, your authority, possibly your life. Then it costs everything. He crossed to her, took her face in his hands. Eva, I already lost you once because I chose duty over love. I chose politics over what mattered. I won't make that mistake again, not for the council, not for anyone. Eva saw the truth of it in his eyes, the absolute conviction. This wasn't pretty words or empty promises. This was a man who'd made his choice and would burn the world before he unmade it. Okay, she said, then we do this right. We don't just expose Octavia, we destroy her completely. We make sure she can never hurt another Omega, never manipulate another bloodline, Never. Her phone rang again. Different number. She answered cautiously. Hello, Miss Thorne, this is Rowan Barrett, the investigator you hired. Eva had almost forgotten. She'd contacted Barrett 2 days ago, asked him to look into council financial records, to track any unusual patterns. What did you find? She asked. Everything. Barrett's voice was grim. Wire transfers, shell companies, property deeds. Ms. Thorne Octavia Ravenswood has been running a systematic operation for at least 7 years. She identifies high-value alpha territories, introduces omegas from her network into those territories, arranges bondings, then manufactures infertility diagnoses. The severances destabilize the alphas, makes them vulnerable. Within 2 years, she either absorbs their territory directly or installs family members in key positions. How much territory are we talking about? 40% of the Pacific Northwest. She doesn't hold it officially, too obvious. But through proxies and family members, Ravenswood controls 4 major cities, 6 shipping ports, and half the tech corridor from Seattle to San Francisco. Eva felt dizzy. That's not a conspiracy, that's a coup. Exactly, and she's not done. I found communications suggesting she's targeting the Vancouver and Portland territories next. Within 5 years, she could control the entire western seaboard. Coltrane had gone very still, listening, processing the implications. Send everything to this email, Eva said, and gave Barrett a secure address. Encrypted, and Barrett disappear for a while. If Ravenswood realizes you've been digging, you're a liability. Already packed. I'll be in Montana by tonight, but Miss Thorne, be careful. People who threaten this kind of power don't play by rules. Neither do I. She ended the call, looked at Coltrane. We can't just go to the council with this, she said. Half of them are probably compromised, either working with Octavia or too afraid to oppose her. So we go over their heads. Coltrane pulled out his laptop, started typing. Every alpha pack in the territory has the right to call for a grand assembly. It's ancient law, predates the council. When an alpha calls grand assembly, all packs must attend, all grievances must be heard, and all evidence must be examined publicly. How long to organize? Normally weeks, but I'm the Alpha King. I can invoke emergency protocols. 72 hours. He looked at her. But Eva, once we do this, there's no going back. A grand assembly supersedes council authority. If we present this evidence publicly, if the packs vote to remove Octavia and investigate the council, it will fundamentally change how we're governed. Good. The current system is broken. It will be chaos. Better chaos than murder. Coltrane smiled slightly, fierce and proud. You're going to make an incredible Luna. I already am one, he laughed. Actually laughed, and for a moment, despite everything, Eva felt hope. They spent the next 3 hours preparing. Coltrane sent out the official call for Grand Assembly, invoked his authority as Alpha King, set the location as the Grand Hall in Seattle, 72 hours from now. Eva organized the evidence, created a presentation, documented timeline, financial records, medical fraud, testimony from Serafina, investigative reports from Barrett. Everything arranged in a narrative that was utterly damning. By noon, responses were flooding in, alphas from across the territory confirming attendance. Some supportive, some confused, some openly hostile, but all bound by ancient law to attend. Eva was reviewing the RSVP list when her phone rang again. This time the caller ID showed Elder Theron Ashcroft. She exchanged glances with Coltrane. He nodded. She answered. Elder Ashcroft. Omega Thorne. His voice was carefully neutral. I understand you and Alpha Blackwood have called a grand assembly. Alpha Blackwood called it, as is his right. Indeed. And I understand the assembly concerns allegations of medical fraud, conspiracy, murder. A pause. Heavy accusations. Backed by evidence. So I'm told. Another pause. Omega Thorne, I'm going to speak plainly. I've served on this council for 30 years. I've seen corruption. I've seen power struggles. I've made compromises that haunt me. But I've never condoned murder. Eva's breath caught. Was Ashcroft actually... If what you're alleging is true, he continued, if Octavia Ravenswood has been systematically killing Omegas and manipulating bloodlines, then she must answer for it. But I need to know, do you have proof, real documented, indisputable proof? Because if we're going to tear this council apart, we need to be certain. I have proof, Eva said firmly. Ritual logs, financial records, testimony from the healer who performed the sabotage severances, and evidence of 4 other Omegas who were targeted. 4. Ashcroft's voice went quiet. Dear God. 4. Catherine Wells is already dead. Helena Shaw might be dying. I don't know about the other two. I remember Catherine. Lovely girl. Bonded to James of Tacoma. When she died, we all thought, heart condition. Tragic but natural. He sounded sick. It was murder. Yes. And her mate James. Bonded to Octavia's niece 6 months after Catherine died. Ravenswood now controls Tacoma port operations. Ashcroft swore, creatively and extensively. I've been a fool, we all have. We saw what we wanted to see, respected Octavia's family name, trusted her authority, and all the while she was building an empire on corpses. Will you stand with us? Eva asked. At the assembly. I'll do more than that. I'll bring the other council members who can be trusted. We'll testify. We'll admit our failures. We'll help you burn this corruption to the ground. His voice hardened. But Omega Thorne, after this is done, after Octavia is dealt with, we need to talk about reforming the entire system. Because if one person could do this much damage, the system itself is broken. Agreed, Ern. But first we survive the next 72 hours. Yes, about that. Ashcroft's tone shifted, became urgent. Octavia knows you have evidence, knows you're planning to go public. She will try to stop you. By any means necessary, I suggest you find somewhere safe, somewhere she can't reach. I'm at the Fairmont Olympic. Too exposed, too easy to access. I have a property, private estate 30 miles outside the city. Warded, protected. I'll send coordinates. Go there. Take Alpha Blackwood, bring your evidence, and don't trust anyone except PAC members you've known personally for years. Why are you helping us? Because I took an oath, Ashcroft said quietly, to protect the PACs, to serve justice, to uphold what's right even when it's hard. I've failed that oath, but perhaps it's not too late to remember what it means. He ended the call. Eva looked at Coltrane. He's offering us sanctuary. Could be a trap. Could be, but he sounded genuine, and he's right. We're too exposed here. Coltrane thought for a moment, then nodded. We go, but we bring security, and we stay ready to run if this goes wrong. They packed quickly. Eva gathered the evidence. Coltrane made calls to his most trusted PAC members. Within an hour, they had a security detail. 6 wolves, loyal to Coltrane personally, all willing to die before they'd let harm come to their Alpha King and his mate. The drive to Ashcroft's estate took 40 minutes. They went in a convoy, 3 vehicles, constantly checking for tails, watching for ambush. The estate was beautiful. Old growth forest, private lake, a sprawling house that looked like it had been built a century ago and maintained with loving care. Elder Ashcroft met them at the door. He looked older than he had 3 days ago, tired, like the weight of what he'd learned had aged him years and hours. Welcome, he said. You're safe here. I've had wards placed by the best security wolves in the territory. No one gets in or out without my knowledge. Inside the house was warm, comfortable. Books lined the walls. A fire crackled in the main room. Ashcroft gestured them to sit. I've been making calls, talking to the other council members I trust. There are 7 of us who had no knowledge of Octavia's activities. 7 who are willing to stand against her. That's a majority of the council. What about the other 5? Coltrane asked. 2 are definitely compromised, receiving payments from Ravenswood accounts. They'll fight to protect her because their own crimes will be exposed. The other 3, Ashcroft shrugged. Cowards. They'll side with whoever they think will win. So we need to make sure we win, Eva said, which brings me to a problem. Ashcroft pulled out his own laptop. Octavia has been busy. In the past 6 hours, she's called in every favor she's owed, contacted every alpha she has leverage over. She's building an army. By the time the Grand Assembly convenes, she'll have support from at least 40% of the attending alphas. Based on lies, Coltrane said. Based on self-interest. Half of them benefit from the current power structure. They don't care if Omega's died. They care about maintaining their territories and wealth. Eva felt sick, but not surprised. Power protected power. Always had. Then we need to change their calculations, she said. We need to make supporting Octavia more dangerous than opposing her. How? Ashcroft asked. Eva smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. We go public, not at the assembly, before. We release everything to the media, every news outlet, every blog, every social media platform. We make this so public, so documented, so undeniable that any alpha who stands with Octavia becomes complicit in mass murder. Coltrane's eyes widened. That will cause panic. The human media will report on a scandal in the supernatural community, which humans already know exists even if they pretend not to. Eva leaned forward. We've spent centuries hiding, being careful, protecting our secrets. But maybe it's time to use transparency as a weapon. Let the world see what Octavia Ravenswood has done. Let human courts and supernatural justice both come for her. It's never been done, Ashcroft said slowly. We've always handled internal matters internally. And look where that got us. 4 dead Omegas, a council compromised by corruption, a system that protects killers as long as they have the right bloodline. Eva stood, paced Ashcroft's study, checking her phone obsessively as responses flooded in. My child will grow up in this world. I will not raise them in a system that values power over justice. That sacrifices the innocent to maintain order. If we have to burn it all down and rebuild from ashes, so be it. The 2 alphas stared at her. Eva saw the moment they truly understood. She wasn't just fighting for herself, wasn't just seeking personal vindication. She was starting a revolution. If we do this, Coltrane said carefully, if we go fully public, there's no controlling the narrative. Human media will sensationalize. Anti-supernatural groups will use it as ammunition. We could trigger a backlash that endangers every pack in North America. Or we could show that we're capable of policing ourselves, that we don't tolerate murder, that we're not monsters hiding in the dark, but people trying to build a just society. Eva met his eyes. I'd rather risk backlash than perpetuate a system that kills innocent women. Ashcroft was nodding slowly. She's right. We've let fear of exposure make us complicit in too many sins. Perhaps it's time to choose transparency over secrecy. Then we do it tonight, Eva decided. We release everything. Financial records, medical fraud, names of the dead. We give the human media a story they can't ignore. And we let Octavia try to defend herself in the court of public opinion while she's also fighting supernatural justice. Coltrane pulled her close, kissed her forehead. You're terrifying. You know that. Good. Octavia should be terrified. They spent the next 4 hours preparing the release. Eva wrote a statement. Coltrane contacted journalists he trusted. Ashcroft reached out to supernatural media outlets who'd been waiting years for permission to report on council corruption. By 8 p.m., everything was ready. Eva hit send and watched as the story exploded across the internet. Breaking supernatural council, accused of systematic murder. Alpha King calls emergency assembly, amid corruption. Scandal, 4 women dead in alleged supernatural conspiracy. Within an hour, it was trending on every social media platform. News trucks were pulling up to the Seattle Council Hall. Reporters were calling every supernatural contact they had. The story was everywhere, and there was no putting it back. Eva paced Ashcroft's study, monitoring the response. Behind her, Coltrane and Ashcroft tracked which alphas were publicly supporting them, which were staying silent, which were doubling down on supporting Octavia. Her phone rang. She didn't recognize the number but answered anyway. You've made a grave mistake. Octavia Ravenswood's voice was ice. You've embarrassed the council, violated supernatural law, endangered our people. And for what revenge, pride, justice, Eva said calmly, for Catherine Wells, for Lydia Thornton, for Miranda Cross, for Helena Shaw, and for every other Omega you tried to kill. You have no proof of. I have mountains of proof, and now so does the world. Your financial records, your correspondence with Dr. Flint, Serafina Cole's testimony, it's all public. You're done, Octavia. I'm far from done. You may have won the media battle, but the Grand Assembly is still 2 days away, and a lot can happen in 2 days. The line went dead. Eva turned to find Coltrane standing behind her. He'd heard every word. She's going to come for us, Eva said. Before the assembly, she'll try to eliminate us and claim it was an accident. Let her try. Coltrane's voice was granite. We have security, we have allies, we have truth on our side, and we have something she doesn't. What's that? Each other. He pulled her close. Eva leaned into him, let herself take strength from the connection that pulsed steadily between them, that had survived attempted murder, that had refused to die despite ritual and separation and time. Outside night fell. In the distance, Seattle glowed. And somewhere in that city, Octavia Ravenswood was planning her next move. But Eva Thorne was done being afraid, done being a victim, done letting the powerful destroy the innocent. The Grand Assembly was in 48 hours, and Eva was going to make sure justice finally came for those who'd evaded it too long. Whatever it took, whatever it cost. She would see this through to the end, for Catherine, for Lydia, for Miranda, for Helena, for her child, for every Omega who'd ever been told they were broken when the system itself was what was shattered. The reckoning had begun. And it would not stop until every guilty party answered for their crimes. The night before the Grand Assembly, Eva couldn't sleep. She stood at the window of Ashcroft's guest room, one hand on her belly, watching moonlight silver the forest beyond. The estate was quiet, peaceful, the kind of quiet that came before storms. Behind her, Coltrane slept fitfully. She could hear his breathing change, feel through their connection when nightmares pulled at him. He'd bolt awake, reach for her, settle only when his hand found her warm and real beside him. Tonight she'd left him sleeping, let him have whatever rest he could get. Tomorrow would demand everything from both of them. Her phone lit up. Text from an unknown number. Helena Shaw is alive, critical but stable. We're bringing her home. Ava's throat tightened. Helena, the Omega from Sitka, who'd been listed as critical condition. One of Octavia's victims who might actually survive to see justice. Another text came through, different number, Miranda Cross located, Fairbanks Memorial Hospital. Refusing treatment, says she wants to die. What should we do? Eva's hands shook as she typed back, tell her Octavia Ravenswood is being brought to justice tomorrow. Tell her we need her testimony. Tell her 4 other women are counting on her to live. The response came quickly. She's listening. A third text. This one from Rowan Barrett. Final intel. Octavia moved $50 million to offshore accounts in past 12 hours. She's planning to run if the assembly goes against her. I've alerted federal authorities. They're watching all her exit points. Eva forwarded the message to Ashcroft and Coltrane, building the cage tighter, closing every escape route. The door opened behind her. Coltrane bare-chested and alert despite the 3 a.m. hour. You should be sleeping, he said quietly. So should you. He crossed to her, wrapped his arms around her from behind, hands settling on her belly where their daughter they'd learned the gender yesterday rested. Their daughter responded immediately to his presence shifting beneath Eva's ribs. Helena's alive, Eva said. Miranda was found. They're bringing them home. And tomorrow we make sure Octavia answers for what she did to them. If the assembly votes our way. They will, Coltrane's voice was certain. Ashcroft says we have the numbers. 7 council members standing with us. 43 Alpha Packs have publicly declared support. The evidence is undeniable. Then why am I terrified? Because you're smart enough to know that cornered predators are the most dangerous. He turned her to face him. But Eva, we're not going into that assembly alone. We have allies. We have truth. We have each other. She leaned into him, let herself take comfort from his solid warmth. From the bond that had grown stronger day by day. 75% now, approaching what they'd had before the severance. What if something goes wrong, she whispered. What if she... Then we adapt. We fight. We win anyway. Coltrane tilted her chin up. You've survived everything she's thrown at you. A failed severance, exile, 6 months alone while pregnant. You walk back into Seattle and exposed a conspiracy that's been running for 7 years. You're the strongest person I know, Eva. Don't doubt yourself now. I'm not doubting myself. I'm doubting them. The alphas who benefit from the current system. The ones who will vote to protect their own power even knowing Omega's died. Then we make them see that their power means nothing if it's built on murder. He kissed her forehead. Come back to bed. You need rest. Our daughter needs rest. Tomorrow is going to be brutal. Eva let him lead her back. Let him tuck her against his chest. Let the steady rhythm of his heartbeat lull her towards sleep. But her last thought before darkness claimed her was a prayer. Let justice win. Just this once. Let justice win. The Grand Hall was packed. Eva had seen the building before everyone in Seattle knew the massive stone structure that housed the most important supernatural gatherings. But she'd never been inside, never stood in the vast circular chamber where 1,200 wolves could assemble under a dome ceiling painted with constellations. Now she stood at the center of it all. The chamber was arranged in concentric rings. The 12 council members sat on the raised dais at the north point. Below them in the second ring sat the territorial alphas, 67 of them, representing every major pack from Vancouver to San Francisco. Behind the alphas, their seconds and advisors filled the third ring, and in the outer ring, witnesses, omegas, betas, anyone with standing to observe. Eva stood in the central circle, alone. By ancient law, accusations brought before Grand Assembly had to be presented by the accuser personally. No proxies, no representatives, just Eva, 5 months pregnant, facing down the most powerful wolves in the Pacific Northwest. Coltrane sat with the alphas positioned directly in her line of sight, close enough that she could feel him through their connection, close enough that his presence anchored her. Ashcroft stood from his position on the dais, his voice carried through the chamber without amplification. Ancient acoustics built for exactly this purpose. This grand assembly is called to order. Alpha King Coltrane Blackwood has invoked emergency protocols to address allegations of conspiracy, medical fraud, and murder within our governing council. He looked directly at Eva. Omega Evangeline Thorne, you may present your evidence. Eva walked to the center of the circle. A massive screen descended from the ceiling behind her. Her laptop connected wirelessly. She'd rehearsed this, practiced every word, every slide, every piece of evidence arranged for maximum impact. But standing here feeling the weight of 1,200 pairs of eyes on her pregnant belly, obvious beneath her simple black dress, she felt the enormity of what she was about to do. This wasn't just exposing Octavia. This was challenging the entire system. She pressed the remote. The first slide appeared. 4 faces, 4 women. Lydia Thornton, Catherine Wells, Miranda Cross, Helena Shaw. Eva's voice was steady, clear. 4 Omegas, 4 high-ranking bloodlines. 4 women who were told they were infertile. 4 women who were severed from their alpha mates. 4 women who disappeared. Silence. Total. Absolute. Catherine Wells is dead. Heart failure at 32 years old, 8 months after severance. Helena Shaw is in critical condition in a Sitka hospital. Miranda Cross was found yesterday in Fairbanks, barely alive. And Lydia Thornton. Eva paused. We're still looking. She clicked to the next slide. Medical records, ritual logs, side-by-side comparisons. The bond severance ritual requires monkshood root, precise preparation. It severs the connection cleanly. Both parties walk away free. Another click. But these women weren't given monkshood. They were given valerian, a suppressant. Their bonds didn't sever. They went dormant. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Eva pressed on. For 6 months the suppression holds. Then the bond begins to wake, slowly, painfully. But with the mates separated and unable to complete the connection, the partial bond causes deterioration, heart failure, neurological damage, death within a year. She clicked again. Financial records appeared, wire transfers, shell companies. Dr. Lysander Flint received $200,000 from a Ravenswood trust account 1 week before performing my severance. He received similar payments before each of the other 4 severances. More clicks, more evidence. Payment ledgers, emails discussing Project Bloodline Optimization. Territory transfers showing how Ravenswood Holdings expanded after each severance. This wasn't medical error. This was systematic murder designed to consolidate power. Eva turned to face Octavia directly. The elder alpha sat motionless on the dais, expression carved from ice. Octavia Ravenswood has spent 7 years eliminating rival bloodlines, manipulating alphas, absorbing territories. She currently controls 40% of the Pacific Northwest through proxies and family members. And she did it by killing Omegas who stood in her way. The chamber erupted. Alphas shouted. Council members demanded order. Octavia remained silent. Ashcroft's voice cut through the chaos. Order, we will have order. Gradually, the noise subsided. Elder Ravenswood, Ashcroft said formally, you will answer these accusations. Octavia stood, slowly, deliberately. When she spoke, her voice was calm, almost amused. These are serious allegations, Omega Thorne, built on stolen documents, testimony from a disgraced former healer, and financial records taken without warrant or authority. She looked at the assembled alphas. I've served this council for 32 years. I've built alliances, maintained stability, protected our people from exposure. And now I'm accused of murder based on circumstantial evidence and the word of a woman who admittedly violated council law. She turned back to Eva. Where is your proof that I ordered these severances sabotaged? Where is your proof that I intended harm? You have payments to a physician, payments that could be explained as consulting fees, research funding, any number of legitimate expenses. You have unfortunate deaths, tragic yes, but not uncommon among Omegas with weak bonds. And you have territory transfers that followed legal protocols. Eva felt the room shift, felt doubt creep into the alphas who'd been supportive. Octavia was good, twisting the narrative, making the evidence sound circumstantial. You're right, Eva said quietly. I can't prove you gave the orders, not directly. She clicked the remote. A new document appeared. But Serafina Cole can. The screen showed a sworn affidavit, Signed, witnessed, legally binding. Former council healer, Serafina Cole testifies that you personally brought her revised ritual instructions the night before my severance. Instructions written in your handwriting. Instructions that changed monkshood to Valerian. Eva clicked again. The handwritten document appeared. Octavia's distinctive script. Unmistakable. She testifies that you told her the change was temporary protocol approved by the full council. She testifies that when she questioned you, you threatened her position. She testifies that after my severance, you ordered her to destroy the original instructions. She kept them anyway. The chamber went silent again, different silence. The silence of a noose tightening. Forgery, Octavia said, but her voice had lost its certainty. Then we'll have handwriting experts examine it. We'll subpoena your personal records. Eva stopped, gasped. Pain, sharp, sudden, low in her belly. Not the baby moving, something else, something wrong. She pressed a hand to her stomach, breathed through it, waited for it to pass. It didn't. Coltrane was on his feet instantly. Eva felt his alarm through their connection, felt him moving toward her. I'm fine, she said, tried to project calm. Just a cramp. I'm fine. But she wasn't fine. Another contraction hit. Harder. Eva's knees buckled. She caught herself on the podium. The laptop clattered to the floor. Eva, Coltrane was there, hands on her shoulders. What's wrong? It's too early. It's another wave of pain. Something's wrong. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Wolves shouting, medical personnel rushing forward, Ashcroft calling for order that no one heard. A healer reached Eva. Older woman, competent hands. When did the contractions start? Just now, 2 minutes apart. That's not possible. First labor doesn't progress that fast. It's the bond, Eva gasped. The realization hit with the force of another contraction. The bond is destabilizing, the stress, the confrontation, it's affecting the baby. The healer checked her pulse, her eyes widened. Your bond strength is dropping. You're at 60%. If it goes below 50, I know. Eva gripped Coltrane's hand. I know what happens. She'd seen the medical reports on Catherine Wells, on Helena Shaw. When the bond dropped too low during pregnancy, the Omega's body rejected the fetus as foreign. Miscarriage, or premature labor so early the child couldn't survive. We need to get you to a hospital, the healer said urgently. No, Eva forced the word out. Not yet, the vote. They need to vote now. Eva, you could lose. I know what I could lose. She looked at Coltrane, at their connection flickering, weakening. But if we don't finish this, if we don't get justice for those women, then everything we've fought for means nothing. Call the vote, now. Eva, call the vote, Coltrane. That's an order from your Luna. Their eyes met. She watched him war with himself. Alpha King, who'd spent 12 years protecting stability. Mate desperate to save his family. He chose Eva. Elder Ashcroft, Coltrane's voice carried pure authority. Call the vote on Octavia Ravenswood's removal from council immediately. Ashcroft hesitated only a second. All territorial alphas, the question before you, do you vote to remove Octavia Ravenswood from the council pending full investigation into allegations of conspiracy and murder? Eva stayed on her feet. Barely. Coltrane supported her weight. Their connection dropped to 55%. The votes came one by one. Portland Territory, aye. Vancouver Territory, aye. Tacoma Territory. A pause. Alpha James, whose mate Catherine had died. Aye. More ayes, but also nays. Alpha's loyal to Octavia. Alpha's protecting their own interests. Eva counted through the pain, through contractions coming every 90 seconds now, through their connection dropping to 52%. They needed 35 votes, simple majority. At vote 40, they had 31 ayes. Eva's water broke. The fluid soaked through her dress, pooled on the marble floor. Every wolf in the chamber could smell it. Blood, birth, emergency. Someone get a medical team, a voice shouted. No, Eva said again. Finish the vote. 27 more votes to go. 41 aye, 42 nay, 43 aye, 50% bond strength. Eva could feel Coltrane's panic surging through their weakening connection, could feel her own body preparing for labor whether she was ready or not. 51 aye, 34 total, 52 aye, 35. They had it, simple majority. But the votes continued. 67, the final vote. Alpha Victoria from the California border territories. Aye. Final count 46 to 21. Overwhelming majority. Motion carries. Ashcroft's voice was grim. Octavia Ravenswood, you are removed from this council effective immediately. Guards will escort you. Octavia ran. It happened fast. She shifted mid-leap clothes, shredding massive silver wolf, hitting the ground and racing for the exit. But Eva had planned for this. The doors burst open. Federal agents flooded in. Human authorities who'd been briefed, who'd been watching, who'd coordinated with Ashcroft. Octavia shifted back, stood naked and furious as handcuffs closed around her wrists. You can't do this, she snarled. I have rights. Council law doesn't supersede murder charges, Agent Morrison said coldly. Octavia Ravenswood, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder fraud and about 40 other charges I'll read you once you're in custody. Eva watched them take her away, watched justice finally arrive for the woman who'd destroyed so many lives. Then another contraction hit, and Eva's knees gave out completely. Hospital, she gasped. Now. Swedish Medical Center, emergency obstetrics, doctors and nurses swarming. 7 months gestation, premature labor. Bond destabilization, we need to prep for emergency C-section. Eva lay on the table monitors, beeping IV, pumping medication she didn't recognize. Coltrane was beside her, hospital gown hastily thrown on, hand gripping hers like a lifeline. Bond strength at 48% and dropping, a nurse called. If it drops below 40, we lose them both, the doctor said. Eva could feel it, their connection unraveling, not like the severance that had been surgical precise. This was her body shutting down, rejecting the bond, rejecting the pregnancy, trying to survive. Stay with me, Coltrane whispered. Eva, please, stay with me. Trying, she managed, but I can't hold it. 45%. The doctor's face was grim. We're running out of time. If we don't deliver now, then deliver, Eva said. Save her. If you can only save one of us, you save her. Eva, no. Promise me, Coltrane. Promise me if it comes to that choice, you save our daughter. I can't lose you. I won't. You have to. She's innocent. She deserves. Eva broke off, gasping. 42%. We're taking her to OER, the doctor ordered. Now. They wheeled her through corridors, Coltrane running alongside, still holding her hand, into the operating room. Bright lights, cold air, surgical team moving with practiced efficiency. Mr. Blackwood, you'll need to wait outside. No. Coltrane's voice was alpha command, undeniable. I stay. The doctor looked at Eva. She nodded weakly. They let him stay. 40%. Eva felt the anesthesia take hold, felt her body going numb from the chest down, felt their connection flickering like a candle in wind. First incision, someone said. Eva couldn't feel it, could only watch Coltrane's face, watch fear and hope war across his features. I see the baby, aspirating, fluid. Come on, sweetheart, breathe for me. Silence. Terrible. Endless. Silence. Their connection dropped to 38%. Eva's vision grayed at the edges. She could feel herself slipping, dying. This was how Catherine had died, how Helena almost died. Bond too weak, baby too early, system shutting down. I love you, she told Coltrane. Tell her I loved her. Eva, no, don't you dare. A sound cut through the room, small, weak, but undeniable. A baby's cry, and their connection surged. Not back to 75%, not even back to 60, but up, climbing, 45%, 50. 50 sign, she's breathing, the doctor said, relief flooding her voice. Small but strong. We've got her. How? Eva could barely form words. How is the bond? The nurse brought the baby. Tiny, red, perfect. Placed her on Eva's chest, skin to skin. Their connection jumped to 70%. The baby, the doctor breathed. The baby is anchoring the bond. I've never seen this. Eva looked down at her daughter, at the child who'd survived impossible odds, at the heir who'd just saved her mother's life by the simple act of existing. Hello, Eva whispered. We've been waiting for you. Coltrane was crying, openly, unashamed. She's beautiful. Eva, she's perfect. Thea, Eva said, the name they'd chosen. Thea Evangeline Blackwood. 75%, 80, their connection stabilized, stronger than before, reinforced by 3 instead of 2. True mate bonds strengthened by offspring, the doctor murmured. I thought it was legend. Everything about us has been defying the rules, Coltrane said. He kissed Eva's forehead, then Thea's. Why stop now? They finished the surgery, moved Eva to recovery, let Coltrane stay with his mate and daughter through the night. And when morning came, when news reached them that Helena Shaw had stabilized, that Miranda Cross had agreed to testify, that Octavia Ravenswood was in federal custody facing life imprisonment, Eva finally let herself believe justice had won. Not because the system worked, but because broken things could be fixed. And sometimes the most stubborn bonds were the ones that refused to die. 3 months later, the reformed council chamber looked different, smaller. The days had been lowered, the concentric rings rearranged so Omegas sat alongside Alphas instead of in separate circles. Eva stood at the podium, Thea sleeping in a carrier against her chest. The baby had her father's dark hair, her mother's stubborn chin, and lungs that could wake the entire estate when she wanted something. The Omega Protection Act passes unanimously, Elder Ashcroft announced. Independent medical reviews for all fertility diagnoses. Bond severances require 3 physician approvals, and any alpha found manipulating bloodlines faces immediate removal and criminal prosecution. Applause filled the chamber, not thunderous, but real. Helena Shaw sat in the front row, thin, pale, but alive. Beside her, Miranda Cross, an Alpha Marcus of Portland who'd found Lydia Thornton in Anchorage 2 weeks ago, barely breathing, but fighting. 3 of 4 saved. Catherine Wells had died, but her death would mean something now. After the session, Coltrane found Eva in the hallway. Their connection hummed steady now at 85%, growing stronger daily. Ready, he asked? For what? Our bonding ceremony. Public, legitimate, the way it should have been 3 years ago. Eva looked down at Thea, at the daughter who'd saved them both simply by existing, at the mate who'd finally chosen right. Yes, she said, I'm ready. That evening, under the same dome ceiling where she'd nearly died, Eva and Coltrane bonded again. No severance this time. No lies. No politics. Just 2 souls who'd survived impossible odds. And a daughter who proved that broken things could heal. That justice sometimes won. That love, despite everything, endured.